Welcome to the Anxiety Attic, where I make self-help videos for anxiety disorders. Today I'm talking about paruresis, better known as Shy Bladder Syndrome. If you suffer with paruresis, you may think it's something unique to you, but paruresis is mentioned in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. This manual is used by doctors and psychotherapists across the world. It is mentioned as an example of social anxiety disorder. Though some people who have social anxiety disorder also have paruresis, most people who have paruresis do not meet any of the other criteria for social anxiety disorder and are otherwise quite relaxed and confident in other social situations. In this video, I'm going to talk about how common paruresis is, the difference between primary and secondary paruresis, why some people have this problem and others don't, and how it's treated and whether paruresis can even be cured. Let's start with how common is paruresis. There have been a number of attempts by researchers to estimate how many people suffer with paruresis, and numbers as low as 2.8% and as high as 16.4% have been reported. It is, of course, very hard to find the true number because people, particularly with secondary paruresis, keep it secret all their life and never seek treatment. The tools I use to research subjects for my videos show that, although not as common as other anxiety disorders like panic disorder and OCD, shy bladder is a surprisingly common search term. Next, what is the difference between primary and secondary paruresis? Primary paruresis is the inability to urinate when needed. This could be due to a physical problem, a side effect of medication, or a response to extreme fear. In order for urine to flow, there are two things that are needed. One is pressure, the other is a relaxing of the muscle to open a kind of valve called the urethral sphincter. Now imagine you're at a urinal and a fight breaks out behind you. I think many people might struggle to go. But it's not always as extreme as that. If you're under stress or worried about something, or maybe just the presence of certain people that make you feel intimidated might make it harder to go. Maybe you're fine as long as no one starts a conversation with you. Maybe you just like some privacy when you pee. So these are examples of primary paruresis. Secondary paruresis happens when you give a negative meaning to the inability to urinate. You start to worry what others might think of you if they realise you can't pee around others. This leads to avoidance. And the problem with avoidance is that it teaches the brain that a situation is dangerous, so the fear gets stronger over time, which makes the paruresis even worse. So why do some people only get primary paruresis, some get primary and secondary, and many never get paruresis at all? Well, there are probably a number of factors. We're all genetically different. Someone who generally has high bladder pressure, is not much of a worrier, and has never paid much attention to their surrounding environment, will probably never experience even primary paruresis. Someone who's a bit more of an anxious person, maybe has lower bladder pressure, might experience primary paruresis. And someone who worries about what people think of them and are sensitive to criticism are more likely to develop secondary paruresis. This could be down to negative early life experiences, parenting styles, and possibly even a genetic predisposition or a combination of all three. Paruresis varies massively in severity, and I see this in a lot of the comments on my paruresis series. Some make comments like, "What's the problem? I just used a stall." This would probably fit with primary paruresis. He hasn't given it any meaning. On the other end of the spectrum, I have seen comments from people who are unable to urinate at home, and others who have said that paruresis has ruined their life. The best example I have seen of secondary paruresis is this comment. This viewer wrote, "I've always tried to hide the fact that I get anxious. The vast majority of men are competitive, and every little thing they will use to either elevate themselves or lower your ranking. So I feel like if it were known, I'd be teased or held in a lower regard." This belief is the crux of secondary paruresis, and that's why CBT is the most effective treatment for paruresis. CBT teaches you to challenge the beliefs that drive the anxiety. CBT uses thought challenging, behavioural experiments, and systematic desensitization to reduce anxiety. And when anxiety reduces, physical symptoms reduce. And it doesn't matter whether your anxiety causes a racing heart and dizziness like in a panic attack, or shy bladder as in paruresis. When you reduce the anxiety, your body is more likely to behave correctly. So what's the prognosis for paruresis? Can paruresis be cured? Well, you can't really cure anxiety disorders because they're not a disease. All anxiety disorders produce some physical symptoms, but if you learn how to manage the anxiety, the symptoms can be reduced so that they don't have a negative impact on your life. And that goes for paruresis also. I've had paruresis for around 30 years. In the early days, I avoided public toilets altogether, and it made my life very difficult. But by applying CBT principles and systematic desensitization, I was able to reduce it to a level where it very rarely causes me a problem. And now even busy stadium toilets don't bother me. I, of course, had the benefit of being trained as a therapist, but this study of 101 people who attended a weekend paruresis workshop that used systematic desensitization reported significant improvement in symptoms even a year later. So it shows that it can work for anyone. Getting my paruresis under control was a really difficult journey, which took many years. The reason it took so long was that I left it untreated for so long. How successful your paruresis treatment is will depend on how severe it is, how long you've had it, and how much effort you put into the desensitization process and other CBT exercises. There are no quick fixes for paruresis. Medications like antidepressants may help if used in conjunction with CBT, but on their own are not likely to have much effect. So my advice to anyone who is struggling with secondary paruresis is get treatment as soon as possible. The International Paruresis Association in America has a list of therapists who are familiar with paruresis. They also run workshops, as do the UK Paruresis Trust. But any therapist trained in CBT should be able to help you. If they've never heard of paruresis, point them to my paruresis playlist or the UK Paruresis Trust website, which I will link in the description below. If these options are not open to you, then you can learn how to use CBT to treat paruresis using my video series. It uses techniques that I tried and tested myself, which resulted in a 95% improvement in my paruresis. And you can watch that series by clicking here.